Hello and welcome to another episode of Property Ponderings, the podcast where we dig deep into the world of buying and renovating, giving you property advice to ponder. I'm Craig Nichol from Nichol Buyer Advisory here in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm here to help turn your property dreams into reality. With over 15 years of experience spanning everything from town planning and sales to auctioneering, property investing and now buyer's advocacy, I've gained insights into many corners of the property world. Today's topic is one that can save you money from making costly mistakes. 10 signs you're buying the wrong property. By the end of our chat, you'll be able to notice if you're about to make an important property buying mistake that could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So let's dive in and get one step closer to your property dream. One of the first signs you're buying the wrong property is it doesn't fit in with your long-term goals. Whether you're purchasing a family home, an investment, or a future renovation project, property needs to serve your specific purpose. For example, if the goal is to invest and you're relying heavily on capital growth in your plan for your property portfolio, then you need to be buying in areas where you are likely to see stronger capital growth. You don't want to be stuck buying a property that may suit your lifestyle and has poor growth, because then you're working against your longer term goals. So the red flag comes when you're looking at a property to buy that doesn't meet your long term goals. As simple as that. The second sign is that the location has poor growth potential. As the old real estate adage goes, location is everything. If your property is in an area with limited infrastructure, poor transport links, or minimal future development, it could struggle to appreciate in value over time. Suburbs that are declining or have high vacancy rates can also pose a risk. Great locations with growth potential will have future job opportunities, good schools, infrastructure projects on the horizon. If the location doesn't tick these boxes, it's not likely to be the best investment. The red flag is if the location lacks key growth drivers, you're buying in the wrong area. The third sign is that you're paying more than the property is likely to be worth. Overpaying for a property can be a huge mistake, especially in a competitive market. If your offer exceeds comparable sales in the area or market value estimates, you're starting off on the wrong foot. Even if you love the property, paying too much can hurt you financially in the long run, especially if the market softens. Use tools like CoreLogic, Domain, realestate.com.au, or talk to local agents to ensure you're not overpaying. It's important that you're basing your offer on market data rather than emotion. A red flag sign here could be if you're really feeling the pressure of making a significant offer above what you think the market value is worth, you're best to walk away. There are circumstances where paying a little bit more for an extremely high quality property can be justified, but you have to fully understand what you're doing and the likely potential negative consequences down the track if you are forced to sell the property quite quickly. The fourth sign you're buying the wrong property is the property itself is a compromise on the must-have features that you have. Although compromises are common in property buying, if you're compromising on the essential features, you are likely to regret it. For example, buying a property without enough bedrooms for a growing family, or in a location that's too far from work, could lead to some major frustration down the track and regrets. So think carefully about your non-negotiables, such as the number of bedrooms, proximity to transport, yard size, school zone. The list can go on, but it's important that you understand your must-have features and to not negotiate on that. So you really need to understand when you've fallen in love with a property that doesn't meet your key criteria, you could be about to make a big mistake. The fifth sign that you could be buying the wrong property is that the property requires too much maintenance. A property that requires significant repairs or ongoing maintenance can become a financial burden. While renovation projects can be rewarding, taking on more than you can handle could be a recipe for disaster. Make sure you get a thorough building inspection done to uncover any structural and maintenance issues before committing. It's really important to know your limits when it comes to this sort of stuff. Some people have a higher threshold to be able to live in properties that require more maintenance, or to live with the stress of having to do maintenance or repairs on the house whilst you're living busy lives and working and have kids and all of that. But if you're one of those people that will get very stressed and your quality of life will be impacted, you definitely have to be careful of buying a property that requires too much work. So the red flag for those buyers that aren't looking to do work and that may be stressed out by too much repairs is to get the building inspection done, and if it's showing too much work for you to do, then it's time to walk away. Sign number 6 is that you're buying a property in a high risk area. So buying a property in an area prone to flooding, bushfires or other environmental risks can significantly impact both the property's long-term value and your insurance costs. High risk areas can also be more difficult to sell in the future, so it's crucial to research the area's environmental risk before making a decision. The Australian Government's National Flood Risk Information Portal and local council websites can help you assess whether the property is in a flood zone or high bushfire risk area. For those of you in Victoria, you can jump on mapshare.vic.gov.au and have a look at the zoning and overlay for your property or the property that you're looking into. So the red flag here is if the property is in a high risk location and there's a potential for increased insurance premiums that could make a detrimental impact on your long-term financial future, then you need to potentially reconsider your purchase. Sign number 7 that you're buying the wrong property is that you feel rushed into the decision. Buying a property is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll make. So if you're feeling pressured by a real estate agent, a seller, or even yourself, it's a major red flag. Rushed decisions can often lead to mistakes, particularly if you haven't had the time to do your research, inspect the property thoroughly, or get your finances in order. So you really can't let the fear of missing out, FOMO, cloud your judgment in this case. Take your time and don't be swayed by high pressure sales tactics. So remember, the red flag, if you're feeling rushed to sign a contract, it's a clear sign to step back and reconsider. Sign number 10 is that the property doesn't suit the market demand. If you're buying as an investor, the property needs to suit the rental market in the area. For example, if you're buying a small apartment in a family-oriented suburb where renters prefer larger homes, it may be difficult to find tenants. Similarly, if your property lacks the features that are in a high demand location like off-street parking, outdoor space or proximity to amenities, it may be harder to rent out or sell in the future. So you really need to understand your local market and what renters or buyers are looking for to ensure that you're buying a great investment. So the red flag here is that if the property doesn't align with the local rental or buyer demand, it's likely to not be the right investment. Sign number 9 is that you're stretching your finances too thin. If buying the property means maxing out your budget or taking on more debt than you're comfortable with, it's a sign that you might be over leveraging. As we've discussed in previous episodes, taking on too much debt can leave you vulnerable to changes to interest rates, unexpected costs or life events that impact your income. As Warren Buffett famously advises, never test the depth of the water with both feet. Make sure you have financial buffers to cover emergencies and unexpected costs after you purchase the property. So the red flag here is if you're at the upper limit of your borrowing capacity or over, it's a sign you're buying the wrong property for your financial situation at this time. And the final sign that you could be buying the wrong property is that you're ignoring red flags in the contract or the title. Contracts and property titles can sometimes hide hidden dangers. If you notice any unusual clauses or conditions in the contract of sale or title, such as the easements, zoning restrictions, or unapproved renovations, it's important to investigate further. Engage a qualified conveyancer or solicitor to go over the contract and make sure there are no surprises. This is all a part of doing your due diligence when it comes to those legal aspects of property buying. So the red flag here is if there are concerns about the contract or title that can't be resolved that you have identified, it's likely not the right property for you, and that transaction could hold more risk than it's worth. Buying a property is one of the most significant financial decisions you'll make, so it's important to pay attention to these red flags, whether it's overpaying, compromising on must-have features, or feeling rushed into a decision. Recognizing the warning signs can save you from making a costly mistake. Always ensure the property aligns with your goals, budget, and long-term strategy before signing on the dotted line. I think if you spoke to family and friends about these 10 signs that you're buying the wrong property, I think the large majority of them would have felt the feelings before, whether they've acted on it and seen these red flag signs. And you should ask them how they ended up going with that, because I believe a large majority of people that purchase properties do fall into the trap and avoid these signs and keep purchasing that property and then have regrets later. And I don't think that people will readily admit it, but it's something that does cost them down the track and that they do have regrets about. And if they had their time over, they would redo it. So I think this episode is really important just to listen to twice or 3 times to understand the risks before you're buying your property, to ensure that you aren't falling into these traps and missing these signs. Okay, that wraps up another episode of Property Ponderings. I hope today's discussion has helped you identify some of those key signs that you might be buying the wrong property. If you have any questions, as always, or want tailored advice on your next property purchase, feel free to reach out to me, 0400 122 081, or email me at craig@nicholbuyeradvisory.com.au. We'll chat again soon. Information provided in this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal or professional advice. While we aim to provide accurate and up-to-date information, every property transaction and investment is unique and should seek the advice of a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. The opinions expressed in this podcast are our own and are not a substitute for tailored advice from a financial advisor or a real estate professional. We encourage you to consult with a qualified expert who can address your specific needs and circumstances.